time of the year where you really want to start thinking about getting all your work wrapped up for whitetail season. And so that's what I'm out here doing today. And I'm really excited because I actually just did some work on this area, hung a new stand. It's an area where we've hung stands before and I've had some great success. But what I want to talk about is why this stand is so great and exactly what this location is like. And what we've got right here in this area is a quintessential staging area. Now, in whitetail hunting, people define things differently all the time, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to define a staging area. And really what a staging area is in its simplest form is a place where deer go to hang out before they move out into the open to larger destination food sources. That's exactly what we've got right here. We've got a bedding area that's deep into this timber. It gets thicker as you go in. And then out here, not too far away, I've got a destination food source. And what I mean by destination food source is a really heavy protein, heavy feeding area. In this case, it rotates between corn and soybeans typically, but regardless, the deer like to go out there to really put on a good feed, usually in the evenings, and then they transition back through in the mornings. When you're hunting a staging area, the first thing with it is finding it. So what I want to do right now, we're going to leave the stand, we're going to go take a quick walk through here, and I want to show you what a staging area looks like and how you can easily identify one. So let's go check it out. So as you first enter this timber off of that destination or primary food source, which is an ag field right here, you're going to notice that right here we've got some really nice open hardwoods, but there's still plenty of good browse vegetation down here on the floor. And what makes this really nice is because while it is a mature hardwoods and you've got plenty of visibility to see where you hang a stand, there still is enough cover for the deer to feel comfortable to hang out before they head out into the open in the evenings. And vice versa, when they're coming back in the mornings, they might not always go right back to their primary bedding area. They might use the staging area as a secondary bedding area throughout the course of the night and even in the early morning before they go back into the really thick stuff. So you got these open hardwoods, you've got a bunch of different browsing sources with all the natural vegetation and the forbs that are in here. You've got acorns dropping off oaks. But as we proceed a little bit deeper toward their bedding area, you're going to notice the different layers that are going to accumulate before it gets into the really thick stuff, which is the primary bedding. So let's go into the next layer right now. Okay, so this is probably my favorite part of this staging area kind of sequence, as I'm calling it. Next to, of course, the part where I get to shoot at the deer. The reason I like this part is because I kind of think of this as a curtain, like you're going to watch a show and this is where the curtain gets open, because when those deer are emerging from their bedding area, they slowly make their way out. And a lot of times, I would even argue most of the time, especially with those mature bucks, they're going to be working their way with their nose into the wind. So in this case, they'll often come through here when there's an east wind, or even if there's a slight bias. No matter what, they want to be able to smell somewhat what they're walking into most of the time. So as they're coming out of here, this is the first place when I'm sitting in my stand where I'm going to be able to see them pop out of that thicker vegetation. The curtain is going to open and I kind of know what I'm dealing with in terms of the deer I might be able to hunt that evening. Now the very first buck I shot in here, he ended up coming in, he hung out for a while back here right on the edge of the curtain, and then eventually he finally made his way into shooting range just at last light. But then as we proceed deeper into this, you're going to see it just gets thicker and thicker and thicker. So we'll go take a look at that. I don't want to spend too much time in there because the mosquitoes are horrendous right now, but I guarantee you there's some big bucks laying up in here not too far. All right, so now we're entering what I would call stage 3 of this area right here. Technically the staging area is right where they're going to hang out in that more open timber near my stand, or kind of maybe that secondary layer where it's still somewhat open but a little bit more thick, a little bit more security cover. Now we're getting into what I would call the third layer of this progression as we leave the staging area and head to the bedding area. You can see it's getting thicker. Some of the vegetation is getting taller as well. You're seeing some really small stem saplings and stuff like that in here, some shrubs. Some really thick vegetation, less hardwoods, less stuff that's going to have hard mass, but stuff that's still going to have really good browse. And this is an area where the deer are going to hang out possibly even bed, but typically their primary bedding is going to be even deeper into that 4th stage as we get back in. And we're not going to go all the way back in there, but we're going to walk to the edge of it so you can see. But as you can see right here, this is something that even from my stand, it's not that far, but it's just thick enough where I'm not really going to be able to see much even with a binocular. So the deer are going to be progressing this way, heading to that staging area, heading to that destination food source. But we're going to go right now to where it all starts, which is the real thick cover primary bedding. Now you can see we're right on the cusp of that final layer, the primary bedding. It is super thick back there. At points it gets almost impenetrable. A lot of the ground vegetation is even higher, so when they're bedded in there, they feel super, super secure. There's plenty of undergrowth, and also there's plenty for them to just stand up and move beds every once in a while and munch and browse throughout the day on some of those forbs and natural grasses and stuff like that. And then not to mention what makes this a really, really sick spot is that there's a running creek over there, a spring-fed creek, that they're gonna get fresh water all year. And especially during this hot summer and a drought summer like this, that's really important for them to have a water source, a reliable, continuous water source. In this case, like I said, spring-fed, that they can access no matter how droughty it is. So that's one of the things that makes this such a honey hole and holds bucks all summer. In fact, we get bucks from all over the area that live in here during the summer because of that creek. And then after summer, they all start to break up, testosterone starts to raise, and they'll spread throughout this whole ridge system for miles. Right now, I guarantee you we've got probably about 20 different bucks that are living in here. It's pretty amazing when you get them on camera and you really see what's in here. Unfortunately, during the disbursement phase, when hunting season's rolling, many of them disappear, but then we see that trade where bucks are coming from other areas and we're seeing that swap. So if you're looking to hunt a staging area, I highly recommend that you spend your time really analyzing a woodlot when you walk into it to determine if it is that type of cover, if it is that type of area. And hopefully this walkthrough right here kind of gave you an idea of what it might look like.